Oh, dear one, you have no idea how much more I have deconstructed. I have deconstructed so much so that the final tethers that held me to my Christian heritage have finally severed. I know this is the first time that some of you here have heard me talk about this, but over the years, I have talked about how deconstructing is a journey, an ever-evolving process that is especially important for the white Christian who's deconstructing, because deconstructing is more than just spiritual and religious. It's about living free from that Christian patriarchal indoctrination that upholds white supremacy. You know, that pesky thing where we were never taught really about our entitlement and privilege. It was conflated to be part of our faith, and none of that is true. Over the past couple of years, I realized that I am losing myself by holding on to this religious heritage that never protected me. In my book, I talk about how I was holding on to that unchurched, non-conforming Christian label, and I thought that was going to be enough. But those final tethers started to feel more like weights. Not to be too dramatic, but it was dragging me under and suffocating me. I keep hoping that Christianity is going to evolve, but with every passing day, I grow less hopeful. And I'm going to tell you, there are Christians that I absolutely adore. I'll talk about that later because I've had conversations with them about where I am on my journey. And guess what? They're proud of me and they understand and they're supportive of me. So I've made the right decision that they're good people. But at the root of Christianity, there are a lot of problems. First of all, we're watching an entire group of Christians celebrate the return of a bigot to the White House. Then you have a whole other group of Christians who feel like all they have to do is scream at those Christians that they're not real Christians, which I think they think absolves them from actually doing anything productive to change the foundational structure of Christianity that is horribly flawed because it is built on white Christian patriarchy. So over the past couple of years, I've had a lot of these proverbial final straws. I'm going to be real honest. Some of that is related to the fact that I am unchurched and the way Christians view the unchurched. And I will definitely have more to say about that in the coming days. Now, for those of you who are getting ready to start the comments that begin with "not all Christian," I am not ignoring the history of the Christian abolitionists or the Christians who did the work alongside Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., or even the churches now who are working together to end Christian nationalism. But beloved, I'm going to sit down beside you and look in your eyes and hold your hands when I say this. There is not one group of American Christians who can take credit for any social justice movement within Christianity without taking responsibility for the white supremacy that has been inside Christianity from day one. Not one group, not one denomination. Because if Christianity as a whole had taken more responsibility to root out the bigotry and the racism and the homophobia that was living inside churches, and I'm not just talking about evangelical and fundamentalist churches, I am talking about progressive churches. And I'm going to be sharing more of those stories because I was an elder inside a progressive church when the issue of ordaining gay clergy come up. And let me tell you, it was more than just mild homophobia. It was pure hatred for the LGBTQIA plus community sitting right there in the pews. So I think in my own privileged way, I have been romanticizing my Christian heritage to try to rationalize holding on to it. But I now know I can no longer do that. I think this will resonate with some of you as well. Because for those of you who mourn some idealized version of something in your past that you're holding on to, there comes a point of trying to reconcile that with your reality. And so for me, I have to now admit it and say it out loud that I am no longer a Christian. When I first said it, I expected just this massive rush of emotions that never came. All that came for me was absolute peace. And like I said, I will have so much more to say about this. But I want to close with just a quick story. Back in 2015, when I was just going into seminary, I had a blind hot rage for Donald Trump. I could not stand to hear his voice. I could not stand to see his face. And I had been doing enough inner work to know that something was asking for light, and I had to get it right before I started some of the most important work of my life. One of my mentors helped me see that what that rage was trying to hide was grief. Grief for the Christianity that I believed in, that I had given so much of myself to. They had chosen as their idol, a man who was the antithesis of the Christ. When I thought I was a visual representation of what it meant to be the hands and feet of Jesus in the world, instead, they embraced an evil, abusive con man and rejected me. And that con man has been selling them snake oil, and they drink it willingly. And to this day, they continue to do that. I will no longer pretend anymore that I was ever of value to that system. I was merely usable until I was no longer useful, and then I was disposable. You can have him, but the one thing you will never take from me is my integrity and my voice and my passion and my spiritual journey. Because like I always say, spirituality is not contingent upon religion's approval. I will continue to seek connection to this world and this life with my spirituality. And I think Jesus approves of this message. I have a couple of writings over on Substack where I share about why I am no longer a Christian and about losing my fear of hell. Join me over there.